Steel City Sports back here today. I want to talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers. There's a lot racing through my head right now after that dreadful loss to the Colts yesterday. This is just has been such an emotional roller coaster of a season because there's been points this year where the Steelers have looked really good, and then there's been points like yesterday in the past couple of games where they look really, really bad. So this team drives me nuts. But what drives me nuts more is the conversation around the Steelers, especially for people outside of Pittsburgh, people who don't really follow the Steelers. It drives me kind of crazy what some of these people are saying. Because I've heard a lot of people, a lot of national media figureheads and a lot of pages on social media talk about how maybe Matt Canada wasn't the problem because the Steelers are now 1-3 with Matt Canada out the building. Well, I'm not saying the Steelers are a flawed team, but I think that argument is complete BS because what happened the one game after that Matt Canada was fired? Kenny Pickett had his best game of the season. You could argue maybe even of his career. I know he didn't have the touchdowns, but had over 300 yards, looked really good. And Kenny Pickett, I feel the slander that's being thrown on Kenny Pickett, I think is atrocious because the really good teams in the NFL, what they do is they look at their best players, they look at their quarterback, and they say, what does this guy do really well? Let's put our arms around him, embrace him, and really surround him. Give him the tools he needs to accentuate, get the most out of him. And I would argue the Pittsburgh Steelers under Matt Canada did the complete opposite of that with Kenny Pickett, with how they used him. You look at how he played in Pitt. There were two things to me that stood out for him in Pitt. Number one was his athleticism. I feel like the Steelers have not utilized that at all. They haven't really let him use his legs. There's no designed run plays for Kenny. And if they are, the very few times that I did see Canada use Kenny's legs were in just terrible situations. It really showed the lack of awareness from Matt Canada. I remember on 3rd and 10s, he would call quarterback designed runs for Pickett. So that's one thing. And number two, Pitt, I saw an above-average arm. You can say he had Jordan Addison, but there are guys on the Steelers just as talented as Jordan Addison. George Pickens, Deontay Johnson. We have talent on this team. And that's what's frustrating about me. Frustrating is we did not utilize Kenny at all. We didn't play to his strengths. It was a lot of 2-yard screen passes and a lot of throwing to the sidelines. We didn't really open the field a little. We didn't open the middle of the field at all. But look what happened in that Bengals game after Kenny was gone. We let Kenny do what he does best. Let him push the ball down the field. He looked really good. You opened the middle of the field. Pat Freiermuth, turns out he's really good if you use him. He wasn't being utilized whatsoever in Matt Canada's offense because he didn't want to open up the middle of the field. They did that, and Pat Freiermuth had arguably the best game of his career with 120-something yards in that game. He was incredible. Kenny looked great. The run game looked a lot better. And then what happens? Kenny got hurt during the Cardinals game, and we go 0-3 in the next 3 games. Well, no shit, we go 0-3 in those games. Mitch Trubisky is our quarterback. If you watched the Patriots game and you watched the Colts game and you look me in my eyes and tell me that Mitch Trubisky deserves a job as a quarterback in the National Football League, you're a fucking clown. Because the throws that I saw him throw in both of those games, I haven't even seen high school players make that bad of throws. I mean, he's completely 8 feet over the guy directly into a safety behind the receiver. I mean, we're talking about wide open throws. I feel like Kenny got a lot of flack for his inaccuracy, but you look at what happened with Trubisky, no wonder this team went 0-3 under Mitch Trubisky. What do you expect? So yeah, it has been a very frustrating year, and this is why I called for Matt Canada to be fired, is because we weren't using Kenny. We weren't you look at the Steelers, there's talent on this team. You can't tell me on paper the roster doesn't have talent. And they just weren't using the players the right way. They weren't leaning into what their players do well. It was a very rigid, very uncreative offense. So that's why we wanted Canada gone. That's why the one game Kenny got to play outside of Canada's system, he thrived. He looked really good. They won that game. And, yeah, they're going to lose with Mitch Trubisky. Sorry if you hear the sirens in the background. I don't know. There's like Armageddon going on outside my house. But yeah, that's kind of just the crux of how I'm feeling right now. I'm sick of people like giving Kenny Pickett shit. The guy can play. The one game we got to see him play outside of Kansas system, he looked good. And yeah, no wonder we're going to go 0-3 with Trubisky playing. He's terrible. This kind of leads into a bigger conversation going into next year. Like, what's the plan? Like, you're now starting to see the national media call for Tomlin's job. I don't think that they will fire Mike Tomlin. I think Mike Tomlin will have the job as long as he wants, just because he provides that stability. I don't know. I got a lot of thoughts here, very frustrated. If I have to watch Miss Trubisky throw another pass, I'm going to dump bleach in my eyes because it makes me like want to legitimately cry watching him play football. So that's just kind of my thoughts. Let me know what you think about all this. You could just say like this idiot Yinzer, of course he's sticking up for his quarterback, but that's just how I feel.